All right, another week begins here. It's Monday, August the 3rd. We're into a new month, another period in Cordova's response to the pandemic, and this is the Daily Briefing on KLIM and KCDV, or if you're hearing us online at youtube.com/Cordova TV. Glad you could join us. We're going to have, rather than one long visit, we're going to have two quick visits. First with Dr. Sanders reacting to the growth in cases that we saw over the weekend. And then we'll hear from Mayor Koplin, get some reaction from him, and put out a reminder about the coming travel mandate changes expected to begin on August 11th, and some things to kind of look ahead to there. So that's our content for 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8 p.m. on the radio, and then uploaded, that is, to youtube.com/Cordova TV. So, Doctor, the primary area of interest is when we spoke on Friday, we had one active resident case, one active non-resident case. Over the weekend, we then moved up to 4 active resident cases. And actually, as I look at the chart, the non-resident case is considered recovered. But, I mean, that's more, what we have now is more than what we had on Friday. So is there anything new to be concerned about, any behaviors that should be any different than they were on Friday? What's your response to these numbers?
Well, if we see the numbers in our local residents increase, and we are doing the investigation and contact tracing with all of the new cases, public health officials do believe that Cordova has community transmission. When we have community transmission, that means that there's increased infections within the community without clearly identifiable transmission routes outside. So as we see those cases increase in our community, we're asking Cordovans to be particularly careful with their choices along lines of COVID-19 and those mitigation strategies. We're asking people to avoid large group gatherings and avoid gatherings with any people outside of their family or their small trusted bubble.
Okay, so again, fairly similar to what we were talking about at the end of last week. And something else that changed, too, is we now have this 5-level of alert system. There's green level 1, green level 2, and then we moved from green level 2 to yellow level 3, which is watch. Now, what does that mean? Is that more of an internal thing for the incident management team, or does that involve the community, and how should the community respond to that?
Well, just that same, we're asking the community to be extra vigilant and extra cautious with their behaviors. Those levels, the incident management team and the medical response team take into account the epidemiology data, the local and state testing capacity, our public health capacity to do contact tracing and get contact tracing completed rapidly, as well as our healthcare capacity and number of beds locally and in Anchorage for hospital beds. As we integrate all of those sources of information, the Incident Command then recommends the level of alert, which is what brought us to the level 3. The level 3 asks the community to be cautious and prepare, not to close, but start preparing for the idea that if this gets worse, we will have to close public spaces and potentially implement more city rules and mandates. However, at this time, there is no further implementation of city rules and mandates. The fight for COVID is really a combination of using the public policies that we already have in place and then asking people for that individual responsibility for them to make their own decision to help us contain this.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the update as always, and hopefully we'll be able to flatten this one out too, like we did the last one. But if not, it's good to know you're there to let us, to give us that perspective. And again, appreciate the time.
Yeah, I'll just add that we do ask everybody to monitor themselves for COVID-19 symptoms, which includes fever, cough, sore throat, difficulty breathing, loss of taste or smell, or any new illness that if they're feeling fatigue and having any new kind of mild cold symptoms, we would ask them to contact their health care provider for screening and to discuss testing at that time.
Okay, and the healthcare provider will be able to help make the call on that then, obviously.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you again. I sure appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mayor Koplin, I want to ask you basically the same thing I asked Dr. Sanders. What is your reaction to, we did have one of our non-resident cases recover, but we still have 4 active cases among residents. As you saw those numbers tick up some over the weekend, what were you thinking?
It felt like another speed bump where, your apprehension level always rises when you see some community cases. We haven't had any additional, so I think it's just a reminder that there is virus lurking, and we do have community spread now, so it's just another reminder that we need to continue to be vigilant.
And you talked last week some about these alert levels. When we had our last visit, we were at level 2. We've now gone up to this yellow level 3. We talked some about how the IMT had been standing down. Do they reactivate a little bit now when we get to this yellow designation?
That was the reaction, I think, to elevate the level. So didn't really put any more resources in place, just recognized internally and for communication to the community that, hey, we have some cases of community spread here, so be aware, be alert.
So essentially, the main thing for people to do is to keep doing like we've been talking about as far as spacing and masks and so on.
Exactly. I still have a few of those thank yous that the city prepared. It's just a little $5 thank you card when you see people wearing their masks to kind of positive reinforcement. And I got to see it play itself out where I handed one to someone that was inside of a business, and they went straight to the counter, were able to use it on their purchase, and then I kind of overheard them. They bought some additional merchandise because they felt like they were getting a discount. So the back end of that's working as well, where City Hall is very concerned with the pressure on our business community and doing what we can to try to promote local business.
Right. And before we rolled tape, you were telling me a little bit about experiencing some of the challenges of these travel rules, which of course are set to change pretty significantly in a little over a week here. What was what kind of a message do you want to get out about that?
Well, just that remember that traveling into Alaska, we're going to have a change here at the end of the week where you will be required to have a test before you get to the state. There was an option before where you could test once you got here, isolate till you got results and so forth. That'll be changing on August 11th. And just remember, be aware that even if you are people are trying to come and visit and test, I experienced this personally, remember that even if they do arrive here and test locally, if they're positive, that's going to put a couple of weeks of isolation on the table. So that may not fit into travel plans and so forth. So the other thing that kind of cropped up is even though there had been some checking beforehand and the tests were all lined up, 2 weeks later when it actually comes time to travel, the local testing capacity and turnaround times had all changed and disrupted the travel plans. So I guess the takeaway is that Alaska is one of the few states, if not the only, that's requiring testing before you get here, and the time frames necessary to make that effective can be difficult. Just finding somewhere to get tested is very difficult. So if you know those who have travel plans, might be good to reach out ahead of time.
Yeah, anybody in your friends or family circle, or if you have clients that are coming up to sport fish or hunt or something like that, be sure to pass this information on to them because, as you've said many times, this is a train going at full speed and things can change, and it's best, obviously, to align expectations with reality. So just reach out to all the people that you can, I guess.
Yeah, and if you do have travel plans and you have testing arrangements and whatnot, it's worth calling back and double-checking just to make sure things haven't changed. Because as cases rise in other areas and testing pressures rise, those timelines are changing. So it's ever-changing process.
Yeah, that's the if we were going to put an epitaph on 2020's tombstone, it would be that nothing is predictable. Mayor, thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, thanks again to both of our guests, Dr. Hannah Sanders and Mayor Koplin, here on the Daily Briefing for Monday, August the 3rd. Hope the information was valuable, and keep in mind that the most current information on rules and on numbers and, of course, the dashboard, all available anytime you want it. COVID19.cityofcordova.net. The 424-info line is there. The 424-well line is there. And we will continue to bring you updates as often as they're needed. 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8 p.m. on the radio. Uploaded to youtube.com/Cordova TV. Again, the takeaway message, not really an emergency at this point. And if we keep doing what we're doing, hopefully we can just flatten those 4 active cases right back down to 0. That's always the goal. So everybody be careful, be smart, be safe, and thank you for listening in to your Daily Briefing.